All right, welcome in everybody to Kingdom Conversations. I'm Chuck Day, and this is my beautiful sidekick and my wife, Selena.
Hello.
And we're glad to be joined today by David and Bernadette Fredriksz. And
Hi guys.
how are you guys today?
We're doing well.
You look good.
David and Bernadette, for people who don't know, are Hollish friends because they're from Holland.
Not hellish.
I don't know why they are called Dutch.
Hollish.
Because they're from Holland, so they're our Hollish friends.
Polish.
Tell everybody where you're actually, what city you're in and you live in and that kind of stuff, if you don't mind, just to let them get acquainted.
We are living in Ede. Actually, that's in the center of the country. Those who are a little bit familiar with World War II, Operation Market Garden, that took about place, started about maybe 5 miles here from our house where we are. So we are on a lot of historical land, so to say, where we actually in the area talking about the World War II, talking where we are at the moment. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good little bit of memorabilia right there. 5 miles. Are there any kind of things you can still see about that, like
it's funny that you said, funny that you said it, because we this year was the 75th year of liberation, and every 4th and 5th May, the 4th of May we celebrate it's the memorial of the fallen soldiers, who came to liberate our country, the US soldiers, Canadian soldiers, of whom still a lot of buried here in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And then the 5th of May is a celebration of D-Day, Liberation Day. But because of COVID, this is not going to happen. And it was like a big thing this year, but it's not going to happen because of the COVID, because of the virus.
So how is everybody doing over there with COVID? How's it affecting Holland?
Well, you need to realize that we are living in a tiny country, 17 million people. To give you a little idea, we fit about 7 or 8 times in the state of Texas.
Wow.
So, and then we got 17 million people in this tiny country. So when the COVID, when it hit us back in February, I would say, end of February, in the beginning it was like, well, we didn't take it too serious. Then suddenly, the government saw the impact of the virus and people dying left and right, by hundreds. So they start to take it very seriously, to the extent that we are not in a total lockdown, but we are in a partial lockdown. That means that we are, how do you say? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, guys.
That's phone. Okay. That's what these are about. They're very organic. At least it was in Hollish. Nobody could understand what they were saying.
Right. Where was I? So people dying and
you're in lockdown.
Hospital, a partial lockdown. Having said that, this week we are starting to see the decline.
The decline.
Decline of the curve. So, but we're still kids are still at home. The hotels, restaurants are all closed. And I have to say, we are taking it pretty serious here in the Netherlands, for sure. And we see the results of the lockdown.
Is Bernadette, are you still working? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bernadette.
Yeah. I work from home. We're not allowed to go to the office. So, but that's fine. And we still can see our grandkids, unless, of course, we made this appointment that if one of them is ill,
sick,
or we don't go and visit them. So, and the church is closed down as well. So everything is a bit like online and so.
Kind of the same here.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that same stuff here. Yeah. We have what's called businesses, essential businesses that are open. So like our grocery stores and doctors and
Same
But
here.
thankfully our vet was an essential service to take our dog. And but we've lost all our work. I mean, we last work was February what?
February 11th.
Yeah, and we may not go back to work until
1st of June. It looks like.
But God is good. I mean.
Yeah, and I guess especially for and even more so for you guys, you know, being on the road, and you know that's your main stream of income is coming from the road and your ministry.
Yeah.
And, so how are you doing? How are you doing with that?
You know, God's providing. It's kind of tight, but you know, we've had to put a little bit of money up just for, you know, our rainy day fund. Obviously, you know, that's kind of some wisdom to try to do, you know, if you can. And we were blessed enough to have a little bit that we could, you know, survive on, but it's about gone. So,
and we've had a few, like one of our former racers gave us a pretty good offering that helped us. I mean, God's just kind of been sending it in when we needed it.
Okay.
It's kind of, you know, it gets tight, but it's been real good.
Yeah. And we're not concerned, you know, we're just resting in Jesus and trying to not be excited about it. Just, you know, you know, it's tough on me to sit still for 5 minutes anyway. You know how that is. So me being here and not being able to do anything, I can't call and book dates for later because nobody knows anything about when anything is going to happen. And so I just got to sit back and rest in Him. That's all I can do.
Yeah, it's more psychological work.
Right. Well, you know, one of our former national famous soccer player, Johan Cruyff, one of his main lines was every positive has a negative, you know, or every negative has a positive, something like that. And so in all of this, and Bernadette and me were talking about it the other day, you know, because you know I'm on the road a lot. Having said that, I actually enjoyed this season as well. Not so much, you know, people being sick and that stuff, but the season of just being home, you know, digging in the Word again, you know, taking time. I got this crazy early mornings. I don't know what's that all about, and I don't know.
Me too,
I'm
David.
not religious, but I wake up at 4:30, you know, and I'm thinking, what is that all about, you know?
Me too. I'm not a morning person either. I mean, if I get up at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, that's early for me. So, I mean, God keeps waking me up, and I'm like, what is going on?
Right. So, you know, I'm sitting here in my study early in the morning, read the Word, you know, and I put on some music, you know. So, yeah, I enjoyed it as well, and then, you know, being together with Bernadette, spend a lot of time with each other, you know, fighting around the house, you know, she chasing me with a pot, you know, that's kind of.
And we have just a small apartment, so we're just, you know, we don't have an upstairs, like it's a little apartment.
Yeah,
so
she can catch you fast.
You cannot hide.
It's a good, no, it's true. And, you know, but I enjoy this season, and to be honest, you know, and also and we talked about it the other day as well, you know, when these things start to happen, you know, you are kind of falling back on the basics, you know, the essential, and to us it's like what is really important in life, you know, and you start to rethink, you know, priorities and stuff like that. So and you know, I love the church, I love the people, but you know, at the end of the day, man, it's my family, it's my wife, it's my kids, you know, they are number one on the list, you know. And
yeah, that's good. So what do y'all feel like you're hearing God saying to you during this season?
Well, for me, it's more like it's my time with God, and to listen more close, and it's like God is saying, can you still hear me, you know, because we're kind of busy with life, and it's like God is bringing me back to that place, to the place of where it is all about Him and me, and and it's worldwide, because it's not only it's affected the world and the people in the world, because we're part of it as well. The church is part of it, but also for the church, like we're doing our stuff, our program, but it's like God is saying to me, okay, if that is gone, you know falls apart, what is left?
That's good.
And for me, it's that it's me and God wherever I am. So it is for me personally a very good season, where I can adjust and be content, you know. And but that's for me personally, yeah.
I like that. That's
And
good.
That's great.
I thank God I can still hear Him speak, in all of this. Um, it's more difficult to be in a season where it is quiet, you know, because it's all the time busy and running and doing things. And it's like God is saying to me, okay, now it's me time with you. And are you comfortable with that? And I am. It was hard in the beginning, but it's like God is saying here, it, it's all about me, you and me, and which is very good for me to be in that place, in that season now, right now.
Mm.
So I don't know for other people,
I have a very practical this might be Rhema revelation to people, but does God speak to you in Dutch or English?
Well, he speaks to me in English.
Really?
Yeah, because I read my Bible. I have an English Bible, but I also have a Dutch Bible, but I read my English Bible. So he speaks, and I pray, and I hear him, in English. I
Wow.
don't. It's kind of funny though, but for me it works. I can hear him more powerful in English language than in Dutch. But I had this for a long time already. Yeah.
Does he speak to you in English or Dutch?
No, he screams to me because I'm deaf.
Me too.
Like, Freddie, when are you listening to me, buddy?
A lot of people don't realize that God is bilingual, trilingual,
Oh,
quadrilingual.
yeah. No, yeah, oh, for sure.
Omnilingual.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Your question on what is God speaking, one of the things that, and it's what Bernadette says, it's at the end of the day, guys, and all for the ones who are listening and viewing this video, it goes down to the core again, the basic foundational question: do you trust me?
Yeah.
And I see a lot of fear, especially believers, non-believers. I see a lot of fear, and not so much the fear the non-believers. A lot of them the fear of dying, but also in the Christian circles the fear of the unknown. Because we as human beings we always like to kind of control things. I like to control the future. And even if we head our way, we like to pinpoint our own future, and yes, God, you have control of my life, but let me figure it out myself, and if you can come in, yeah, sure, come in. But again, I think God is saying to us, do you really really trust me? And that's for the church as well, and you guys in your finances, and I think that's a great testimony. Do you really trust me? And guys, you've been there. We've been there many times. And then when we look back, sometimes we get so anxious, and we hear the story about Jesus, the sparrow. We all know that story. And then we get so anxious about stuff, life, finances, future, challenges in front of us. Then we go through them, and then we look back to a year, 2 years, 5 years ago, and then you look back and say, man, the Lord has been with me all that season, you know. So again, I think it's a great testimony for all of us, you know, not to worry, you know, because he is in it. He is in it. And I remember when Jesus left the planet, you know, Matthew 28, I will be with you until the end of the earth. So, hey, and you might say, yeah, that's so cliche. That sounds really easy from a Dutch guy, you know, because you have no idea what's going on in America and where we are. And, you know, I just get laid off and stuff like that. I hear what you say. But then again, ladies and gentlemen, you know, it is, do we still trust him?
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, it feels like the water is like here and it's getting, but he's not allowing us to sink. He's not allowing us to go under. No, I don't believe that. I believe he is in this season with all of us.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I actually believe that revival is fixing to break out. I believe that we are kind of God is setting us up because the two things I keep hearing when I'm praying is storm and revival, and that we are literally in a storm. In fact, someone posted the other day, because one of the things that's being said here in the United States is we're all in the same boat now. You know, we're kind of all in the same playing field. And a friend posted on Facebook, it was an anonymous person that she had shared it from, but they said, no, we're not in the same boat. Everybody's boat looks different, but we are in the same storm. Right. And I thought that was a great, insightful thought. But the fact is that we know who speaks to the storm, you know, and I think because of the uncertainty, we've had people, and I don't mean this harsh because I have done this as well before, but we have people that have been playing church. They've been going in, and like you said, they've been doing life and then inviting God into their plans instead of stepping into God's plans. And right now, because of the whole shakeup, and this is not just a national thing, this is a worldwide thing we're experiencing together, that people are uncertain and fearful and scared, but because of that, they're starting to ask questions. And they're starting to look in places they would have not normally looked. And I just believe that God is smart, a lot smarter than me. And I don't know exactly how it's going to start happening, but I see it happening, that revival is starting to break out. I mean, the things that we're seeing now in the U.S. and even like in Brazil, where they were, I don't know if y'all saw that video where the whole city was praising the Lord. Those are things that in the 90s that we heard prophesied. You know, people talk about in the you know, there's going to come a time where cities are going to be worshiping God, and you know, in the grocery stores, people are going to start preaching the gospel, and watching that, it's like, oh my gosh, we're seeing it unfolding.
Yeah. I see this as well as a sort of a wake-up call from God. You know, like he's trying to shake us a little bit, like wake up.
That's scriptural.
You say, not in a way to be in, like be in panic, but like more aware of what our relationship and a wake-up call is. What are we doing as a church, as the church? So I believe this is maybe more for the church than for the world, because the world does not know.
Wow.
You know, he as his children and his church should go out, you know, step out, and you know, and not stay in a building or whatever, but go out more and you know, be his hands, his body, his voice, you know.
It's time the church starts to show that we are the church, that we are the church, you know. I think that's part, you know, that we talk about it so many times, but, you know, bringing words of hope and life. You know, we talked about the supermarket. And we need to realize that a lot of people in that supermarket around us are living in panic and fear. And here we are, you know, our lives are filled with hope and future. And how easy it is to start a conversation. And I try to start a conversation with, you know, people on the street every time, you know, and just, you know, what are you doing? How are you? And then, and Bernie does the same. thing. And it's amazing how. And I'm not saying like, oh, we pray for hundreds of people on the street. No, that's not that's not in realistic what's happening. But we comfort them, we send them words of hope, we give them words of hope and life. And that there is a God who is concerned, and Jesus who loves them and stuff like that. And so that's. I think that's what the church needs to be awakened. Like what you just said, Selena. Let's get out of our programs, the pre-programmed, deal that we are doing so many times, and then we invite God, and then God shows up, and we start to panic, and we have no idea what's going on.
But I believe that this is not. It's a new season that is coming. God is doing. He's still in control.
Oh yeah.
And I'm so more aware of and anxious to see what is going to happen, what the effect will be next. What is happening. So I'm excited in a way to
experience that.
See what is going on. What this thing this season will bring.
Yeah. I want to revisit a minute what Selena was saying about the person that made that post about us not being in the same boat. Because what you were just saying about how that you believe that this is something more of a wake-up call for the church than it is for the world. I think that we need to get our image, our self-image in check as Christians and as the church. Because my boat is not headed toward the rocks. My boat is headed toward smooth sailing. It's headed toward the calm waters, the peaceful waters that he leads me beside. There are a lot of people today that their boat is heading for the rocks. They're completely filled with fear about not only the virus, but about their finances, about their job, about their children, about their schooling, about all of these things, their debt, and all of these things are calling people to fear. But, he didn't give us a spirit of fear. Right. And part of us having a sound mind is having the mind of Christ, and understanding that in this time when the whole world seems to be in a boat heading down toward the rocks and toward the shipwreck, that our boat is not heading that way. That's not our boat, because our boat is captained by the one that cannot fail.
Right.
Sure.
And on top of that, that's fantastic, Chuck, because when you just said it, about the rocks and the calming sea, but in future, let's point our boats to the horizon.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that's man, I don't know what's there, but you know what? I want to go there.
Exactly. That's it. Point your boat toward the horizon.
Right.
I may put that on a t-shirt.
And the good news, we had a friend that we talked with last week, and he was kind of giving that analogy about the boats headed to the rock and the Holy Spirit being the wind. And he was talking about the story of Paul being on the ship. And he said that the rocks represent Jesus too, because we're planted on the gospel, planted on the rock. Right. And when he was talking to Peter, and I thought how interesting, how there's hope in all of that. You know what I mean? Like Chuck said, we're headed towards smooth sailing, but if you're headed to the rocks and you feel like you can't get your head around that I'm going to go to smooth sailing, well, just open and say, I'll just submit and go to the rocks, because the rock is Jesus. And if you crash,
the rock is my salvation.
Yeah. There's going to be hope there. We don't live in a place that exists outside of hope.
Yeah. In the great pirate movies and sailing movies, when you used to see the big, with the tall masts and the sails and all of those guys, there are many times I've noticed when the storm would be coming, or when they would be trying to get to a place to find shelter or safety from maybe a pirate or from an assailant, whoever, they would go to a lot of times to a harbor or a bay that would have big rocks, and you would sail through those rocks and get behind them, which shielded you from all of that wind coming off of the ocean, from the tempest, and also from sight, kept you know what I'm saying? That's why the rocks can be a good part of that as well, but then the ones that are down below the surface are the ones that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
The ones that can cause you to crash. Not that you're going to run into a big rock, because most people can avoid that, but it's the ones you don't see. And that's why, it's important right now that we realize that our mouth can control our destiny.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we're going to make it through this COVID-19 crisis. I don't know.
Like that.
Yeah, and we speak all of this doom and gloom and death to our situation, when we could be declaring as rightful heirs of the throne,
Right.
what our destiny is going to be.
That's a good word. Preach it.
Yeah, that's good. It's so true.
And I think that for me, what is important is that while we're all in that boat, are we at peace? Do we have the peace that goes beyond understanding? And that's for me. I have this inner peace, while everybody is, hectic and stressed, and but I think that that's very important for us, to have that inner peace.
Yeah.
Our boat is rocking, and so that's important to experience.
For sure.
Yeah. One of the reasons why we wanted to start doing this is because the fact that, like I shared with you in an email earlier, is that we found that these organic conversations is really, to me, where God shows up when we do ministries, sitting with people before and after. And we saying that we need to align ourselves with people of peace, with people that are walking in the spiritual realm, or however you want to say it. Because one of the things that I have found here in the United States, I don't know how it is in Holland, but a lot of people are not really fearful of COVID because we live in such an expanse place. But the one thing they are fearful of is that people have gone crazy hoarding and buying things, and you can't find toilet paper anywhere. And the first week or two, you could not. Meat was gone. The grocery stores, I wouldn't say they were completely empty, because we've all been to third world countries. Even the lab that we had, there was a lot of abundance there compared to that. But it was still, for our mentality and how we grocery shop, it was crazy, and it still is to a certain extent. And so when people see that, that's where fear came. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, what's happening? Are we not going to be able to survive? And then all of a sudden, you're told you can't go to work anymore. And then some people have not been able to make a paycheck, and businesses have shut down. So that uncertainty is making the whole, or at least our country, very fearful, which makes people do crazy things. And we've even got people now that are protesting against certain governments in certain states because they feel like the lockdown is so strict. And so that, to me, is why we want to have these conversations, is so that people can hear what you're saying. Because even though they may hear us, they're saying, well, you're such and such and such is your situation. But your situation, you live in a small country. Honestly, probably the chances of being infected is greater because of the close proximity.
Density.
Yeah. And then also too, just, your people are not going to work at where you live as well. So just give them a different revelation, a good, enlightenment, to lack of a better word, of what's going on.
Well, here's another one about the health. When this thing started to break, we had 1,100 ICU beds in the whole country, in the whole nation. 1,100.
Wow.
And and then people are coming in by 50s, and then at the end it was 100. So they had to upscale the ICU units, or the ICU beds. But here's the problem, you also need to have trained personnel, for the ICU beds. And that was the problem. They didn't have enough people that can have the beds. So now all the healthcare workers, the nurses and the staff are like, normally they're running, the whole team is running one bed. Now they had to go 2 beds. And at the end they were taking care of about 3-4 beds.
Wow.
So, and that was a real challenge, you know. But you know, luckily we are, like we said, you know, we are now in the downtrend, so to say. So
Something that I've been thinking about a lot through this whole thing is, and I may say this wrong, but what's the quote that says necessity is the something of invention, or
the necessity is the mother of invention.
yeah, necessity is the mother of invention. I think about, because y'all been to Africa, or I know you have, David, I'm not sure about Bernadette, but you've been to Africa, and how, or even anywhere in the world when you go to Asia, how they do things that we look at sometime and you're like, oh my God, that's crazy. I'll never forget the first time I went to Africa and these little kids were wanting to play. They didn't have a soccer ball. So they took all these bags, like Walmart bags, because there was even a Walmart bag that Westerners had brought over stuff with, and they put it all together until they had made themselves a soccer ball, or y'all would call it a football. And they were playing with it. And I thought, that is ingenious, you know? And so I think about, what are the good things that are coming out of this? You know, now you get on an airplane and you can get on the internet on your airplane, and you can be on the internet all over the world. That only came about because of 9/11, because President Bush could not be in contact. He was like, he would be in one area, and then when you get out of that area, he would lose connection, so they couldn't see what was happening on the ground. And their only source of finding information is through what was happening on TV, and when they could get to a place they could call. And so he was so frustrated with that he was like, that's never going to happen again. So they figured out how to put Wi-Fi on Air Force One. And because of that, they learning how to do that. Now we all have access to Wi-Fi on an airplane, so we're benefiting. So I'm thinking about that, and how people in the medical profession and in all areas are, in churches even, are becoming inventive to, you know, in the way they're doing things.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, you know, at the end when everything is over, you know, there's so much to evaluate, to look back, you know, and the things that we're learning right now at the moment, you know, in church, but in every area, in the healthcare area, you know, things are coming to the surface, you know, that we thought that we overlooked, you know, and now we're seeing this. So, you know, like I think there's so many good lessons that we're learning here, and also in the relationship at the relationship level as well, you know. And that's one of the things I probably, you know, I shared a message the other day about how Jesus touched the leopard, you know, he got healed, and that's the thing that we can do. You know, we can touch people at the moment, and I believe God is in the touching with. Jesus loves to touch people.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, you know, as in ministering as well, you know, we minister live, but we also minister by touching other people, and I think that's one of the things, you know, that I kind of miss. You know, we do this online stuff, you know, but it's different. And you know, the worship, you know, I like to worship with a gang of believers, so to say, you know, make some noise together. So yeah. Having said it, I do believe, you know, it's all going to come back, and you know, we will come back. We come back better out of this for sure.
Yeah,
get out of it better.
And, I realize that maybe we will be more aware of what it meant all the time to pray and touch somebody, you know, that God is telling us something, you know?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so make me think in this season, it's a very special season in a way for each one of us, you know, and try to focus more on what is God saying, and he still speaks, you know, and I'm so grateful for this season in a way. Of course, it's awkward, of course, but then we realize more and more that God is so much more close and nearby, you know. So, and he's and excited to see what the fruit of all this will bring, you know, for all of us.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I wanted to, before we get through today, I wanted for you, David, to share a little bit about your work here in the United States that you're doing with the school up in North Carolina, here in Asheville. and tell a little bit about what that is and your vision for that, and where God is leading you in that situation a little bit, and just kind of tell us how you're equipping the saints. I think what you're doing is great up there.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Bernie says, in a nutshell. I will try. No. We started this school back in 2017. It's called United Life Academy. And what we are doing actually, it's a plain discipleship school, being part also, not discipling it from a program, from a book, but really in your face, one-to-one, raising up young men and women, into maturity, which starts at, clean up your mess, wash your dishes, make up your bed, be on time at work, pay your bills on time, stuff like that. And but also we have like a whole community. We have 5-6 different houses on the campus where all these young men and women are living together in different houses, where we do they work during the days. We teach a couple of evenings in the night, in the week, in the weekdays. There's a lot of discipling one-on-one in your face, and so that's how program is focused. It's being a part of the community, and how can we have the most impact in the community that we are living by, being an example, on time, excellence. We do a lot of serving in our local community. There are days, that we knock on the door of neighbors, can we clean your garden? Do we need help with doing some groceries? When the snow was falling, we shoveled snow from people's houses. And you know what, guys? It makes an impression on people. It's like those small things that have a big impact. And one of the things that we are teaching them is the whole serving part. And a lot, some of them have it in them. Others are like, "What's this all about?" But hey, that's a part of what we're doing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And that's in Asheville, North Carolina.
Actually, in Black Mountain, which is close to Asheville, North Carolina, and we start different age levels from 18 up till early 30s. We have married couples living with us. Of course, a lot of single young men and women, and a real good program. There's an educational side with educational side at it as well, which is called Created. It's Created Institute, which is also part of it. That's a school during the day, but a lot of that stuff is of course online. So if they go to United Life, they all can find all the information there.
Well, that's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, we've been up and seen that operation there with you, and the thing is that it really, I believe, teaches those people a sense of community and communion, and a Greek word, koinonia.
Yeah.
And that is an important, and I think it's almost a lost art.
Yeah.
In America.
Yeah. And Chuck and Selena, well, I hear a lot of people talking about, man, we need to have community. We love community. Yeah, we do need to have community, but living in a community is totally different than just talking about it,
That is.
And because you are in each other's faces like 24/7.
Yeah.
And also, we call each other out, and in love, taking responsibility. But in but the majority of them are growing. It's like big time, and we see the growth. I see the growth happening right in front of me. Actually, after this call, I'll be on a call with my male students, the guys, they, see how they're doing, and just have a little Zoom chat with them. and where they are in life. So that's what we do on a regular basis as well.
So if anybody wants to check this out, what's the website they can go to?
www.unitedlifeacademy.com.
Okay. I'll put that up
Chuck will
as
put that
in
up
the edit. I'll
the
take
edit.
care of that. But yeah, we want people to be able to reach out. And are you accepting any new students anytime soon, or?
Yeah, we have a new group coming in. I think in May it is, and then in August again. Yeah.
So they can go ahead and kind of get in line for the next available opportunity there on the website. Perfect.
Yeah.
And just a personal recommendation for David and Bernadette, we honor y'all so much because there's not a lot of people in my life that I would trust my children with, and I trust my children with David and Bernadette. In fact, David and Bernadette mentor our daughter and her and son-in-law, and we love them. We love the word they speak in them, and I just trust y'all with them. So we really do honor y'all. We love y'all very much.
Thank you. We love you too.
When do you, best case scenario, when do you think you're coming back to the States?
Yeah, it depends when the president, opens up the country for us foreigners again. So actually, I talked with leadership, with the guys back yesterday, and they asked me, David, when are you able to come out? I said, well, my suitcase is always packed, so ready to go. I only carry a carry-on because a lot of my clothes are over there. So, but I don't know that the president has not given a word. I heard today that he is restricting, but that's for immigrants, which I'm not, of course, But yeah, we will see. And I understand the decision that the president made, to keep the foreigners out because,
right.
If there's still people out there in your country who are not taking it serious, you need to take this stuff serious. It's especially when you have like New York is hits severely. A lot of people in the close community, and those are the places,
Right.
Well, listen, thank you again, guys. I know that you've got another appointment right directly after this you need to prepare for. And so we're not going to keep you right up to the very minute so that you can have time to get situated there. But Bernadette, it was so good to see you, sweetie. You come back over here and see us as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And
the plan was, we were going to leave on the March the 5th to come together. Or April, April, and that was just we're going to come together, and but of course that trip was cancelled because of Corona. So we will see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We got a big steak for you over here.
Yeah, y'all call us. If nothing else, let's meet y'all halfway or something.
Well, halfway we get wet.
Yeah, really wet.
Really wet.
I meant when they come to the
when
United
you guys come
States.
to Ireland again, we can meet in Ireland or somewhere.
Yeah. That's a good. I meant when they come to the United States, we'll meet you halfway from Asheville.
Right.
So, we love y'all.
Love
you too, guys.
I can
Thank
stay
you.
on just a second if you don't mind, and we'll turn this off.
Okay.
And we'll say properly goodbye to you. So
Thanks,
goodbye,
guys.
everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in to our Kingdom Conversation.